The quiet hum of Earth's defenses was barely noticeable, as everything seemed to be peaceful. The Earth's military was ready for any threat, yet nothing could have prepared them for the shock that was coming. In space, a shadow moved. A massive fleet of alien invaders, hidden from Earth's detection, was making its way through the void. For years, the galaxy had been at peace. The Earth's people had no reason to worry. They thought they were safe. But that peace was about to be shattered in an instant. The invaders came from a distant world, a species known only as the Exenary. Ruthless and cunning, the Exenary had already destroyed countless civilizations in their hunt for new planets to conquer. And now, Earth was next. The first signs of the invasion came in the dead of night. Radar systems picked up strange, fast-moving objects near Earth's atmosphere. They were too fast to be natural, and too large to be satellites. Military officials scrambled, but there was nothing to report yet. No alarms, no warnings. The world slept on, unaware. In a control room deep beneath the Earth's surface, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Turner stared at the blinking screens in front of her. The strange signals appeared on her radar. She squinted at the map as the blips grew larger and faster, closing in on Earth. Her heart raced. She had seen simulations of an alien attack, but she never thought it would happen for real. "Lieutenant Commander, we've got an incoming fleet. These objects are not from Earth." Sarah's voice was sharp with panic. "I need confirmation now." Her superior, Captain Hayes, stormed into the room, scanning the data on the monitors. He shook his head in disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered. "The Exenary fleet couldn't have arrived this soon. We were supposed to have years before their forces would reach us." But this was different. The alien fleet wasn't just coming from one direction. They were everywhere, spread out in every possible angle, making it impossible to escape. The sensors couldn't track them all at once. Some ships were cloaked, and others moved too fast for Earth's systems to lock on. Sarah typed furiously, trying to make sense of the incoming signals. "They're entering our atmosphere. We need to act fast," she shouted. She quickly tried to send a warning to the main military command center, but every system she used to communicate was jammed, scrambled by the invaders' superior technology. The world was waking up, but by the time they realized the danger, it was almost too late. High above Earth's surface, the massive fleet of Exenary ships loomed. Their ships were nothing like anything Earth had seen before. Sleek, dark, and powerful, each ship glowed with an eerie light. The ships moved with incredible speed and precision. The Exenary had been planning this invasion for a long time, and they came prepared. General Vothar, the leader of the Exenary fleet, stood aboard his flagship, staring down at the planet below. His red eyes burned with malice as he watched the humans scurrying below. He had seen civilizations crumble before him, and now it was Earth's turn. They had no idea what was about to hit them. The humans were weak, their defenses outdated. "We've arrived," General Vothar said coldly, his voice deep and commanding. "Prepare to launch the first wave. Leave nothing behind but ashes." His command was simple but effective. The first wave of alien forces began descending toward Earth's cities. Ships dropped from the sky like meteors, firing laser weapons that obliterated buildings and structures in an instant. Explosions rang out across the planet as the Exenary unleashed hell. Entire cities fell within minutes. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she watched the destruction unfold on her monitor. She could see the bright flashes from the surface of the Earth, human cities burning as the alien fleet systematically attacked one target after another. "Where is the military?" she whispered in shock. "We were ready for this. How are they getting through?" The ground shook beneath her feet as another wave of alien ships passed overhead. The shockwaves sent ripples of fear across the base. Panic was spreading through the ranks as people scrambled to react. But it was too late. The Exenary had already proven their superiority. As Earth's military scrambled to respond, fighter jets launched from underground bases, But their weapons were useless against the Exenary ships. The alien vessels were too fast, too advanced. Earth's weapons couldn't keep up. General Vathar stood at the front of his flagship, watching as the chaos below intensified. His people had fought for centuries to reach Earth, and now they had come for the planet's resources. It was no longer just about taking over. It was about erasing everything the humans had ever built. "Do not stop until Earth is ours," he ordered. His voice echoed through the command center of his ship, sending shivers through his crew. They had a mission to complete, and they would not fail. Back on Earth, panic was spreading. People were running through the streets, trying to escape the destruction from the skies. But there was no escape. No one knew where to hide from the invaders. The destruction was everywhere, on land, in the air, and even beneath the ocean. And yet, even as everything seemed lost, one voice remained calm. In a hidden underground bunker, a small team of scientists and military leaders had been monitoring the attack. Their work had been centered on an ancient Earth artifact, an object lost to history. They had believed the artifact to be a relic of the past, a forgotten part of Earth's history. But now, with the planet on the brink of collapse, they realized that artifact might be humanity's only hope. The ancient fleet, hidden deep beneath the Earth's surface, could be the key to defeating the Exenary invaders. But would it awaken in time to save Earth from destruction? The fate of humanity rested on the unknown artifact, and the team of scientists had no idea what it would take to unlock its power. With the alien forces closing in, they had only moments to make their move. Look. As the alien invasion rages across Earth, a small group of survivors discovers a hidden relic, an ancient fleet buried deep beneath the planet. But will this ancient power be enough to turn the tide? The fight for Earth is just beginning, and no one knows what happens next. The devastation on Earth continued, and the alien ships showed no sign of slowing down. Cities lay in ruins, entire regions burned in the wake of the Exenary invasion. Earth's military was in disarray, its forces no match for the advanced weaponry the aliens wielded. Humanity's hopes seemed to be fading with each passing moment. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Turner, who had been watching the chaos from the underground command center, could barely hold back her tears. The images of destruction were haunting, but she couldn't allow herself to fall into despair. There was still a chance, a slim one, that something hidden beneath Earth's surface could save them all. "Where is it?" she whispered to herself. Her mind raced as she tried to recall the briefings on the old, mysterious artifact that had been discovered years ago. An artifact that, if they could find it, could hold the key to Earth's survival. The files mentioned something about an ancient fleet buried deep underground, waiting for the day it might be needed again. Was this the moment? With a sense of urgency growing, Sarah turned to the small group of military scientists and engineers gathered in the command room. "We need to access the data on the ancient fleet now. Find me the coordinates. There's no time to waste." Dr. Alan Fletcher, a scientist with years of research under his belt, was already searching through old databases, his fingers flying across the keyboard. "I've found it," he said, his voice filled with a mix of disbelief and excitement. "It's hidden beneath the old military bunkers. The fleet, Earth's first defense, is still there, buried under layers of rock and soil. But it hasn't been activated for millennia. If we're going to do this, we need to get there fast." Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she processed the information. Earth's forgotten fleet was the only chance left. But there was one big problem: getting to it. The alien ships patrolled the skies above, and every attempt to launch military jets had been thwarted by the superior Exenary technology. But Sarah refused to let fear stop her. "We'll get to the fleet," she said firmly, determination in her eyes. "We have no other option." Outside, the sky was filled with the harsh glow of alien laser blasts. Sarah could see the shadows of the invaders' ships through the thick, reinforced walls of the command center. Their ships hovered over the cities, destroying everything in sight. People fled, but there was nowhere to hide. Dr. Fletcher spoke again, his voice shaking. "We've only got one shot at this. The entrance is hidden in the mountains, but we'll need to travel through a series of underground tunnels. The aliens don't know about it, and we'll have to move fast before they find it." Sarah didn't hesitate. "Prepare the team. We leave in 5 minutes. We're going to find that fleet, and we're going to activate it. We'll give Earth a fighting chance." Meanwhile, far above Earth's surface, General Vathar, leader of the Exnary invasion fleet, stood on the bridge of his flagship. He watched as Earth's defenses crumbled before him. His fleet was making quick work of the human cities, and yet something gnawed at him, an unease he couldn't quite shake. There had been reports from his scouts of something hidden beneath the planet, something that could pose a threat. He didn't know what it was, but he knew that the humans would fight with everything they had to protect their world. "We'll burn this planet to the ground if we must," General Vathar growled to his officers. "Search the surface, find what they are hiding, and destroy it before it becomes a problem." His officers nodded and quickly scrambled to execute his orders. The aliens had overwhelming firepower, but they couldn't afford any surprises. If there was something buried deep within Earth's crust that could fight back, it needed to be eliminated, no matter the cost. Back in the command center, Sarah and her team were preparing to leave. She looked at the faces around her, men and women who had seen their families, their friends, and their homes destroyed in a matter of hours. The weight of the situation pressed heavily on them all. Yet there was one spark of hope that still flickered. Sarah knew they were risking everything. The journey to the fleet could take hours, and the tunnels leading to the hidden base weren't exactly easy to navigate. Not to mention, the aliens were likely already aware of their search. "We move quickly," Sarah instructed, strapping her equipment tightly to her back. "No matter what happens, we stay together. We can't let anything stop us." As the team made their way to the underground tunnels, the ground trembled with the sound of another explosion. The Exnary had just launched another wave of attacks, this time targeting the outskirts of their location. The situation was getting worse by the minute. The small team moved through the tunnels in silence, their footsteps echoing in the dark, damp passages. Sarah's thoughts raced as she led the way. The fleet was supposed to be a forgotten weapon, something built long ago by an ancient civilization that had long since disappeared. If they could find it, would it still be functional? Could it fight back against the alien invaders? And then there was the biggest question of all. How would they activate it? The records had been unclear, and the artifact itself had been nothing more than a legend. But they were running out of time. If they didn't succeed, Earth would fall. They reached the entrance to the secret base. It was well hidden, carved deep into the mountain, and covered by thick layers of rock. The large steel doors stood before them, dark and imposing. The team worked quickly, using their tools to open it, hoping that it wasn't too late. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the doors creaked open. A long corridor stretched ahead of them, leading deep into the earth. But what lay inside was even more extraordinary than they could have ever imagined. The ancient fleet lay waiting, untouched by time, hidden from the world for centuries. The corridor stretched on, dark and silent. Sarah and her team moved cautiously, their flashlights casting long shadows against the cold, metallic walls. The air felt heavy, as if the weight of centuries pressed down on them. This was no ordinary bunker. It was a tomb for something ancient, something powerful. "Everyone stay alert," Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible. "We don't know what we're walking into." The group nodded, their faces tense. Dr. Fletcher carried a portable terminal, constantly scanning for any signs of energy or activity. "The readings are faint," he muttered, "but they're there. Whatever this fleet is, it's dormant, but not dead." The passage widened into a massive chamber, and the team froze in awe. Before them stood towering machines, each one unlike anything they had ever seen. Rows upon rows of colossal starships filled the underground hangar, their sleek designs gleaming faintly under the dim emergency lights. These were not human creations, not entirely. The craftsmanship was alien, yet there was something unmistakably familiar about the design. Sarah stepped forward, her breath catching in her throat. This is it. The fleet. The sight was mesmerizing, but they couldn't afford to waste time. The clock was ticking, and the Exenary invaders were growing bolder. Sarah turned to Dr. Fletcher. Can we activate them? Fletcher frowned, studying the control panels embedded in the walls. The systems are ancient, but they seem intact. If I can find the main interface, we might have a chance. But what? Sarah asked sharply. Fletcher hesitated. There's a fail-safe mechanism. These ships weren't meant to be used lightly. They were locked away for a reason. If we don't do this right, we could trigger something catastrophic. Above ground, General Vathar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his expression grim. His officers reported strange energy spikes from the mountains. It wasn't much, but it was enough to confirm his suspicions. They found something, Vathar growled. Prepare an assault team. I want that site destroyed before they can use whatever they've uncovered. The Exenary fleet shifted into formation, and smaller attack vessels descended toward the mountains. The skies darkened with the shadow of their ships. Inside the hangar, Dr. Fletcher worked frantically, connecting his terminal to the ancient systems. The machines hummed faintly as power began to flow through the dormant ships. Symbols and readouts lit up on the walls, their alien language incomprehensible but mesmerizing. This is incredible, Fletcher murmured. These ships aren't just weapons. They're something more. The technology here is centuries ahead of anything we've ever seen. Sarah interrupted, her voice urgent. Can they fight? That's all I need to know. Fletcher nodded slowly. If I can fully activate the systems, yes. But there's one more step. The fleet requires a command signal, a human interface. Someone has to control it. The team exchanged uneasy glances. And how do we do that? Sarah asked. Fletcher pointed to a central console at the heart of the chamber. There, that's the core. Someone will need to establish a link. Without hesitation, Sarah stepped forward. I'll do it. Wait, Fletcher grabbed her arm. We don't know what will happen. This isn't just pushing a button. The interface might connect directly to your mind. It could overload you, or worse. Sarah's gaze was steady. If we don't try, Earth is finished. I'll take the risk. The console pulsed faintly as Sarah approached. She placed her hands on the smooth, cold surface, and a sudden surge of energy shot through her. She gasped, her vision blurring as images flooded her mind. Memories of battles fought long ago, voices speaking in a language she didn't understand. The fleet wasn't just a collection of ships. It was alive, in a way. It carried the will of those who had built it. A civilization that had vanished months ago, leaving behind this legacy for humanity to uncover. Sarah's voice echoed through the chamber, distant and layered. They left this for us. They knew we would need it someday. The machines began to awaken. Engines roared to life, lights flickered on, and the hangar trembled as the ships prepared for launch. The fleet's immense power was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Dr. Fletcher watched in disbelief. She's done it. She's activated the fleet. But there was no time to celebrate. Alarms blared as the team's scanners detected incoming Exenary forces. They found us, one of the soldiers shouted. They're coming. The ground shook violently as explosions erupted outside the mountain base. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling of the hangar, making it clear that the Exenary had arrived. Their attack vessels hovered in the skies above, and strike teams were already advancing toward the hidden entrance. Sarah stood at the center of the ancient command console, her hands still pressed against the smooth surface. The fleet around her roared to life, their dormant systems now fully awake. The starships, sleek and massive, began lifting slightly off the ground, their engines emitting a low, powerful hum. Sarah, we've got incoming, shouted Sergeant Keller, one of the soldiers standing near the entrance. They're breaching the tunnels. Sarah gritted her teeth, her mind racing. She was connected to the fleet's systems, feeling its power coursing through her. But controlling it wasn't simple. It was like trying to steer a massive river, one that could easily overwhelm her if she wasn't careful. "We have to buy some time," Sarah said, her voice strained. "Fletcher, how many ships can we get operational right now?" Dr. Fletcher checked his terminal, sweat beading on his forehead. "A handful, maybe 3 or 4 at most. The others need more time to power up fully, but even a few could hold off the Exneri if we launch them." Sarah nodded. "Do it. Get those ships out there. We need to give the rest of the fleet time to come online." Outside, the Exneri forces advanced with precision. Their ground troops, tall and menacing, carried energy weapons that could melt through steel. Hover tanks floated behind them, their cannons glowing ominously. Above, their attack vessels circled like vultures, ready to strike. General Vathar watched from his flagship in orbit, his cold eyes fixed on the battlefield below. "They've activated something," he muttered. "I can feel it. But whatever it is, it won't be enough to stop us. Wipe them out." His officers relayed the orders, and the Exneri ground troops surged forward. Explosions echoed through the mountains as they fired at the hidden base, their weapons tearing through rock and steel. Inside the hangar, the first of the ancient ships began to rise. Its engines roared, and its sleek, silver hull gleamed under the dim lights. The ship hovered for a moment before shooting forward, its weapon systems primed and ready. "Here goes nothing," Fletcher muttered as he sent the launch command. The ancient starship burst out of the mountainside, its engines leaving a trail of blue light. The Exneri troops outside paused, stunned by the sight of the massive vessel emerging from the hidden base. The ship's weapons activated, firing beams of energy that cut through the Exneri forces with pinpoint accuracy. The alien ground troops scattered, their hover tanks exploding in fiery blasts. The Exneri attack vessels in the sky moved to intercept, but the ancient ship was faster and more agile than anything they had encountered. It weaved through their formations, its weapons tearing through their ships like paper. In the hangar, Sarah felt every movement of the ship as if it were an extension of herself. The connection was overwhelming, but she forced herself to focus. She could sense the Exneri ships above, their aggression and desperation like a dark cloud pressing against her mind. "We're holding them back," Keller reported, watching the battle on a nearby monitor. "But they're sending reinforcements. We need more ships in the air." Sarah's grip on the console tightened. "Fletcher, get the next wave of ships online. I'll guide them myself if I have to." Fletcher hesitated. "Sarah, you're already pushing yourself too hard. The interface wasn't designed for this kind of load." "I don't care." Sarah snapped, her voice cutting through the noise. "We don't have a choice. Either we fight or we die." Above the mountain, the battle raged on. The ancient ship continued to outmaneuver the Exneri forces, its energy weapons devastating their ranks. But the invaders were relentless, sending wave after wave of ships to attack. The second and third ancient ships launched from the base, joining the fight. Together, they formed a powerful defense, their combined firepower turning the tide of the battle. The Exneri forces began to falter, their confidence shaken by the sudden resistance. General Vathar watched the unfolding chaos with growing frustration. "Impossible," he muttered. "These humans were supposed to be weak. How are they fighting back?" One of his officers turned to him nervously. "The fleet they've activated. It's unlike anything we've seen. Their technology is advanced, perhaps even more advanced than ours." Vothar's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll crush them before they can bring the rest of their fleet online. Send everything we have. I want that base destroyed." Inside the hangar, alarms blared as the Exneri forces intensified their assault. The team worked frantically, trying to bring more ships online. Sarah's vision blurred as she struggled to maintain control of the interface. "We're running out of time," Fletcher said, his voice filled with urgency. "If the Exneri breach the base, it's over." Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself, not while I'm still breathing. She reached out with her mind, connecting to the newly activated ships. The hangar trembled as more of the fleet began to awaken, their engines roaring to life. One by one, the ancient ships rose into the air, ready to join the fight. The mountain base was a storm of chaos. Explosions rocked the ground, and the roar of engines echoed through the cavernous hangar. Sarah's head throbbed as she struggled to maintain her connection to the fleet. The strain of controlling multiple ships at once was almost unbearable, but she refused to let go. "We're holding them off," Keller reported from the observation deck. But barely. They're regrouping and coming back with more firepower. Dr. Fletcher's fingers flew across his terminal as he monitored the fleet's systems. "The ships are adapting to her input," he muttered. "It's like they're learning from her. But Sarah can't keep this up forever." "I don't need forever," Sarah said through gritted teeth, "just long enough to turn the tide." The remaining dormant ships in the hangar were beginning to stir. Their engines hummed faintly, and their lights flickered on as the ancient systems came back online. But the process was agonizingly slow. Every second felt like an eternity. Above ground, the Exenary forces unleashed their full fury. Their flagship hovered ominously in orbit, directing the assault. Waves of alien attack ships descended toward the mountain, their weapons firing in coordinated strikes. The ground troops pushed forward with relentless precision, their hover tanks blasting apart the rocky terrain. General Vathar stood on the bridge of his flagship, his face twisted in a snarl. "These humans are more resilient than I expected," he admitted grudgingly. "But resilience won't save them. Deploy the heavy artillery. I want that base obliterated." One of his officers hesitated. "General, their fleet, it's growing. The ships they've activated are formidable. If we don't act carefully, we cooled." "Silence," Vathar barked. "I will not be outmaneuvered by these primitives. Crush them now, before their fleet is fully operational." Back in the hangar, Sarah felt the weight of the battle pressing down on her. She could sense the Exenary ships above, their movements like dark shadows in her mind. The ancient fleet was powerful, but the invaders were relentless. "We've got a problem," Keller called out. "They're bringing in orbital cannons. If those things fire, this whole mountain is coming down." Sarah's heart raced. The Exenary were escalating their assault, and time was running out. She turned to Fletcher. "Can we intercept them? Do we have enough firepower?" Fletcher shook his head. "Not yet. The ships we've launched can hold their own in a fight. But they're outnumbered, and the ones still in the hangar need more time to charge." Sarah clenched her fists. "Then we make time." She closed her eyes, focusing all her energy on the ships already in the air. Through the interface, she could feel their power, their potential. The ancient fleet was like a sleeping giant, slowly waking to the threat around it. "Follow my lead," Sarah whispered, her voice echoing in the minds of the activated ships. The 3 active starships in the sky moved as one, weaving through the Exenary formations with precision. Their weapons fired in coordinated bursts, targeting the alien attack vessels with deadly accuracy. The Exenary forces faltered, caught off guard by the fleet's sudden aggression. But the victory was short-lived. A massive shadow loomed over the battlefield as the Exenary's orbital cannons powered up. The weapons glowed with an eerie red light, their energy building toward a devastating strike. "They're targeting the base," Fletcher shouted. "If they fire, we're done." Sarah's mind raced. The activated ships were powerful, but they were still outnumbered. If the orbital cannons fired, there would be no way to stop them. She took a deep breath, her resolve hardening. "I'm going to push the fleet harder. We need to take out those cannons before it's too late." "Sarah, no," Fletcher protested. "You're already at your limit. If you push any further, the interface cold." "I don't care," she snapped. "This is our only chance." The ancient ships responded to Sarah's command, their engines flaring with renewed energy. They surged upward, racing toward the Exenary's orbital cannons. The alien ships moved to intercept, but the fleet's speed and agility were unmatched. The first cannon fired, its massive energy beams slicing through the sky. The blast narrowly missed the mountain, carving a fiery scar across the landscape. "Come on," Sarah whispered, her focus unshakable. The lead ship reached the cannon, its weapons unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. The cannon's defenses crumbled under the assault, and a massive explosion lit up the sky as the weapon was destroyed. Cheers erupted in the hangar, but the victory was short-lived. The Exenary forces were regrouping, and the remaining cannons were preparing to fire. Inside the hangar, the dormant ships began to stir more quickly. Their systems hummed with life, and their engines glowed brighter. Fletcher's eyes widened as he checked his readings. "They're almost ready," he said. "Just a little longer." Sarah gritted her teeth, her vision blurring from the strain. She could feel the fleet's power growing, but the battle wasn't over yet. The hangar trembled as the remaining dormant ships began to fully activate. One by one, their systems roared to life, the low hum of engines rising to a thunderous crescendo. Blue energy cascaded along their sleek hulls, and their weapons arrays gleamed in the dim light of the underground base. Sarah stood at the command console, her hands gripping the surface tightly. Her vision blurred, and sweat poured down her face as she maintained her connection to the fleet. She felt their awakening like a pulse in her mind. Powerful, overwhelming, and full of potential. "Fletcher, how many ships are online?" she asked, her voice strained but determined. Dr. Fletcher scanned his terminal, his hands moving rapidly over the controls. "We're up to 8. No, 9. They're coming online faster now, almost as if they're feeding off each other's activation." "Good," Sarah said, her focus razor-sharp. "We'll need every single one of them." Above the mountain, the Exenary forces were regrouping. Their orbital cannons, though powerful, were now vulnerable to the awakened fleet. General Vathar paced on the bridge of his flagship, his frustration mounting with each passing second. "How is this possible?" he growled, slamming a fist onto the control panel. "These humans were supposed to be defenseless, yet their fleet, an ancient relic, continues to defy us." An officer approached cautiously. "General, the second cannon is ready to fire. Shall we target the mountain base directly?" Vathar's eyes gleamed with cold determination. "Yes. Destroy them before they can fully awaken their fleet. End this rebellion now." The second orbital cannon charged its weapon, its glow illuminating the Exenary ships clustered around it. But just as it prepared to fire, a newly awakened starship emerged from the mountain. The ship was massive, its angular hull gleaming with an otherworldly light. It moved with a purpose, its weapons locked onto the cannon. Before the Exenary could react, the ship unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, striking the cannon in rapid succession. The cannon exploded in a fiery blaze, sending shockwaves rippling through the alien fleet. Sarah felt the victory resonate in her mind, but there was no time to celebrate. "They're not stopping," Keller reported from the observation deck. "Their forces are regrouping, and they're sending reinforcements from orbit." Sarah's hands trembled as she adjusted her control over the fleet. She could feel the strain in her mind, like trying to hold back a tidal wave. But she pushed forward, her resolve unshakable. "We're not backing down," she said firmly. "If they want a fight, we'll give them one." The newly awakened ships rose into the air, joining the battle above. Together, the fleet formed a defensive formation, their weapons firing in perfect synchronization. The Exenary attack ships swarmed around them, but the ancient vessels held their ground. Dr. Fletcher watched the battle unfold on his monitor, his heart pounding. "It's incredible," he murmured. "The fleet isn't just powerful, it's intelligent. It's adapting to their tactics." Sarah nodded, her connection to the ships deepening. She could feel their awareness growing, their systems working in harmony to counter the Exenary assault. It was as if the fleet had been waiting for this moment, biding its time until it could awaken and defend humanity. On the ground, the Exenary ground troops launched a final desperate assault. Their hover tanks and infantry pushed toward the mountain base, determined to breach its defenses. Explosions rocked the tunnels as they fired relentlessly, their weapons tearing through rock and steel. But the ancient fleet wasn't just fighting in the sky. The base itself had defenses Sarah hadn't even activated yet. As the Exenary troops neared the entrance, hidden turrets emerged from the walls, firing energy blasts that cut through the invaders like a scythe. Keller and his team held their ground, their rifles blazing as they fought alongside the automated defenses. "They're not getting in," Keller shouted. "Not today." In orbit, General Vathar stared at the unfolding battle with growing dread. The ancient fleet was decimating his forces, and his flagship was now within range of their weapons. "General, we're losing ships faster than we can regroup," an officer reported. "If we stay any longer, we'll be annihilated." Vathar clenched his fists, his pride warring with his survival instincts. He had underestimated the humans, and now his fleet was paying the price. "Order a retreat," he said reluctantly. "We'll regroup and strike again when they least expect it. This isn't over." As the Exenary ships began to retreat, the ancient fleet pressed forward, ensuring the invaders wouldn't return anytime soon. Sarah felt the shift in the battle, the tide turning decisively in humanity's favor. "They're running," Fletcher said, his voice filled with relief. "We did it." But Sarah didn't relax. She could feel the fleet's power surging within her, its potential still untapped. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. "Prepare the fleet," she said, her voice steady. "This was just the beginning. If they come back, we'll be ready." The battlefield was silent. The sky, once lit with the fiery exchanges of war, now glimmered with the faint blue light of Earth's ancient fleet hovering in formation. The mountain base stood intact, its defenses battered but unbroken. Inside, Sarah collapsed to her knees, her breathing ragged and her mind overwhelmed from the strain of controlling the fleet. "Sarah." Keller rushed to her side, his voice filled with concern. "I'm fine," she managed to say, though her voice trembled. "It's just the connection. It's like nothing I've ever felt before." Dr. Fletcher approached cautiously, his expression a mix of awe and worry. "You did it, Sarah. The fleet, it's alive. And it's ours." Sarah nodded, her gaze drifting to the large monitor showing the retreating Exenary ships. "For now. But they'll be back. This isn't over." On the bridge of the Exenary flagship, General Vathar seethed with rage. His once imposing fleet was now reduced to a fraction of its former strength. The humans, whom he had dismissed as primitive, had not only resisted, they had overpowered his forces. "We underestimated them," one of his officers said cautiously. "Their fleet, it's beyond anything we've encountered." Vathar snarled. "No fleet is invincible. We'll return, and when we do, we'll bring the full force of the Empire. They won't stand a chance." Back on Earth, the mood in the mountain base was tense. The team gathered around the central console, where a holographic display of the ancient fleet hovered in the air. "We have the fleet," Keller said, his voice breaking the silence. "But the question is, what do we do now?" Dr. Fletcher rubbed his temples, deep in thought. "The Exenary won't stop. They've seen what we're capable of, and they'll come back stronger. We need to be ready." Sarah stood slowly, her exhaustion replaced by determination. "We're not just going to wait for them to attack again. We have this fleet for a reason. It's time we take the fight to them." Her words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. The fleet hovered silently above Earth, its ships gleaming in the sunlight. Sarah stood at the observation window, her reflection mingling with the view of the powerful vessels she now controlled. She could feel their presence in her mind, a constant hum of energy and awareness. "These ships weren't just built for defense," she said quietly, more to herself than anyone else. "They were meant for something greater." Dr. Fletcher joined her, his expression unreadable. "If you're suggesting what I think you are, it's a bold move. Dangerous, even." Sarah turned to him, her eyes resolute. "We can't sit idly by while they regroup. The Exenary will keep coming, and they won't stop until Earth is a memory. If we don't take the fight to them, we're just delaying the inevitable. Preparations began immediately. The fleet was undergoing final calibrations, its systems adapting quickly to Sarah's commands. The crew worked tirelessly, their determination fueled by the knowledge of what was at stake. Keller approached Sarah as she studied the holographic map of the galaxy. "You really think this is the right call? Leaving Earth to face them head-on?" Sarah looked at him, her gaze steady. "It's not just about Earth, Keller. The Ex-Neri have terrorized countless worlds. If we can stop them, if we can make them think twice before invading another planet, then it's worth the risk." Keller sighed, then nodded. "Well, if anyone can pull it off, it's you. Just don't forget, we're all in this together." As the fleet prepared to depart, Sarah addressed the team. "This isn't just a fight for survival. It's a fight for freedom. For every world the Ex-Neri have tried to dominate, we have a chance to stand up to them, to show them that humanity isn't just another target. We're stronger than they think." The room erupted into cheers and determination. The team was ready, their spirits unshaken despite the challenges ahead. In orbit, the fleet began its ascent, engines glowing as the ships moved into formation. Sarah sat in the command chair of the lead vessel, her connection to the fleet stronger than ever. She could feel the weight of their power, the potential to change the course of history. Coordinates set, Fletcher reported from his station. "We'll reach the Ex-Neri's stronghold in 3 days." Sarah nodded, her fingers gripping the armrests of her chair. "Let's finish what they started." The fleet surged forward, leaving Earth behind as it disappeared into the vastness of space.